It's that time again. Time for some real talk about real issues to enhance your real life. Whatever you think, whatever you know, whatever you feel, Tanya doesn't mind talking about it. Get ready for some real talk that is always rated R, because Talk with Tanya has got to be relevant. Talk with Tanya has got to be refreshing. But most importantly, Talk with Tanya has got to be real. Tune in right now for Real Talk with Tanya White.
Hello. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Real Talk with Tanya White show. I am your host, Tanya White, and today we're having real talk about forward-moving friends who hold each other accountable, friends who give advice, friends who have that deeper diving conversation when you're right, when you're wrong. It's all about friends. And you know I love music, so I could bust out into any friend song. That's what friends are for. What about your friends? TLC, Jody, I can do that all, but I can't because I don't have the copyrights to it. And I don't want y'all to be booking me for any concerts. I'm not doing that right now. I'm doing my Real Talk with Tanya White thing, okay? So we're going to talk about forward-moving friends, and we have 4 friends. They call themselves the BLING Crew, all right? And we're going to talk about how they met, why they call themselves the BLING Crew, and how they all hold each other accountable and move each other forward in life, love, and all things above, okay? But before we get started and bring the BLING Crew on, we must give shout out to our March sponsor, which is Miss LaTanya Renee Banks. Yes, we share the first and middle name, LaTanya Renee Banks of Derby City Medical Partners. If you need a primary care physician, go to Derby City Medical Partners. See LaTanya Renee Banks and her wonderful associates. Also, if you want to become a sponsor, monthly sponsor of the Real Talk with Tanya White show, we welcome that. Just give me a call at 502-509-6053 or email me at the Real Talk with Tanya White at gmail.com. Let me say it again. Real Talk with Tanya White. Tanya is Tanya. White is in the color at gmail.com. All right, we're going to bring the BLING Crew on. The first person I'm going to bring on, she's been on the show. Her sister was on the show last week. My friend, my high school partner, Nicole Cooper. Hey, Nicole.
Well, hello, Miss Tanya White. Thank you for having us.
All right, thank you for putting this all together, introducing me to the BLING Crew, and doing all that you do. Before we get into who you are, what you do, and how you came, give our audience just a little tidbit of who Nicole Cooper is.
Yes. I am a person who is excited, stands for and listens for people to be heard and seen all over the world. That is my stand. That is my passion. That's where I walk with and I listen for when I'm around people. And I am a life coach at the Excel Clarksville, Indiana Center. And it is a joy and an extraordinary privilege to be able to be a life coach there and share, listen, and inspire students. And I have the director, Miss Tanya White. And it's a joy to work with you every day. Full of excitement, joy, play, all the things. It's a real joy. So thank you for inviting me over to the Clarksville family. And it is a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And we're trying to add author to your title as well. We'll talk about that later, Nicole. But she has a lot of wisdom to share that I keep telling she needs to write in a book. She shall do it because she has a friend and a director who holds her accountable and moves her forward. Even though I'm not a part of the BLING Crew, I still hold her accountable. We're going to bring on another BLING member. Ladies first, always ladies first. So we're going to bring on Miss Brooke Ferris. Hello, Miss Brooke.
Hello. It's such a pleasure and a joy to be here.
Well, thank you, Miss Brooke. Brooke, where are you calling from? Tell our audience.
I'm calling in from New York City.
Whoop, whoop. NYC, the city who never sleeps, never
Coastal elite, baby.
That's right. Miss Brooke, tell our audience who you are. Miss Brooke Ferris.
I'm a connector. I'm somebody who loves people. I create community everywhere I go. I'm someone who has the ability to hear what people are up to and be like, oh, wait, I'm going to connect these people and have them go forth and create something great, as well as creating communities inside of clown. I'm an actress, I'm a singer, I'm a clown. I'm also a chief of staff as a main job, and I'm that at the Town Hall Theater in New York City, which is an incredible institution with over 105 years of having diverse performers for diverse audiences. Yeah, that's a little bit of who I am.
Miss Brooke, first of all, thank you for all that you do. You've said a number of things which brought to my attention. We do not have to pigeonhole ourselves, do we, Miss Brooke? Mm. And I love that you said you're a connector, because that's who I am. Explain to people what a connector really is, because that's a unique trait to have.
To me, a connector is somebody who can see. It's a listener, really, because you're listening to who people are and what they're up to and what they stand for and what their dreams are. And then as you're listening, you can see connections that maybe either other people may not, or they just don't know about them. And so truly one of my joys is being like, oh, wait, you're up to this thing? I know somebody who's also up to this thing, or who's up to the thing you might be. I'm going to connect you to and see where it goes. And I love that. There's nothing that gives me greater pleasure than people who I know and love and connecting and creating something new from that.
Brooke, see, that's why we're going to have our own conversation. We are twin spirits, okay? You said everything that I love. Like when people are listening to me, Nicole could testify. I'll be like, I know this. I'm going to introduce you to this person. And I'll call them right then and there, because it's all about what you said. I love how you articulate it. Listening to people, making sure they are seen and heard, and then connecting them. And that takes a very self-reflective person who knows who they are, is not afraid to share their resources, and wants people to move forward in life, right?
I want to say one thing about that as I'm hearing, and then I'm very aware there's two people waiting in the wings. But let me just say that
listen, we'll just talk. Listen, they on there. This is Girls Talk.
I'm just saying, for me, there's no such thing as competition. Not really. And it's interesting because, like, growing up as an actor and being in the audition spaces, you know, there could be a room full of people who all look like me, although chances are not, because I'm 4'7" and a whole world of things. I'm just saying. But there could be a room of people who look just like me, but you are who you are. And this is true in any space, right? Like not just acting, but any space. Like you are who you are. And when you show up as that, if you are the right person for the right thing at that time, there's nothing that can stop you from getting that. That's it. Nothing. The only person you're in competition with is yourself. And that is to continually grow.
Brooke, see, this is why, listen, I'm going to be respectful of time, but you're talking my life language right now. That is who I am. I walk in a room, because and people don't understand. I used to be a wallflower. That's before I knew who I was. But my ultimate purpose in life is to connect people. Why? Because my parents were connectors. My dad he worked at the employment office, and he connected people with jobs. My mom, she was very active in the community and in church, and she connected people with other people who could mentor them and get them. And she was also a mentor. So it's in my DNA, first of all. But then I love to do it. And so I love what you said. There is no competition. Because I tell people, LaTanya Renee White is a rare jewel. There will never be another me. And I don't care if you try to duplicate it, you will never, ever be me. Okay. And I know that now. So I don't see anybody as competition. I see everything as a collaborative effort. And I want because I want to see myself move forward in life and be the most fabulous being that I'm supposed to be. I want other people to do the same. And so that's why I connect people, because I know, look, I tell them all the time, I may not know how to get you there, but I guarantee you I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who gets you there. And I'm going to introduce you to that somebody. So Brooke, you talking my life language, and we're going to have our own conversation in the future on Real Talk with Tanya White. Okay, Miss Brooke. Now let's bring on another Bling member who's patiently waiting, Mr. Gregory. And I hope I said this right. Jost, is that right?
Jost, yeah, that's
Jost.
good. That was close. Real close.
Listen.
Real close.
Jost?
Yeah.
Okay, Gregory. Welcome to the Real Talk with Tanya White show, Bling member. Gregory, where you calling from?
I am not that far. I'm just up the road from Miss Brooke Ferris. I am in the Bronx, New York.
Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
Bronx,
Boogie
New
down
York.
Bronx.
Boogie down Bronx. Come on, Gregory. Now I'll go into my hip hop. Oh, listen. Gregory, tell us who you are.
Oh, I love this combo already because I'm also a connector and a bit of a, sometimes I call myself a bridge builder across time and space, history. I'm many things. I wear a lot of hats. Family person, in all the kinds of ways, dad, brother, son, husband, all of that. And yeah. I'm also a bit of a organizer, community activist, and historian, and teacher, and person of faith. All the things. I'll go into a lot of different spaces, and a lot of that I see came from wanting to connect with people and recognizing that the way that the world has been set up, that their boundaries have been created between us, but they're made up boundaries, and when we can see past them, there are so many ways we can connect. And I got a lot of that from my parents, who come from very different backgrounds. My mom's from India, my dad's from Kansas. I grew up in New Jersey, and then I came to the Bronx because I was like, you know what, we got space for everybody here, even people who don't fit in the boxes. So I love doing work and connecting with people who who are actively involved and engaged in their neighborhoods, fighting for justice, fighting for just love, to be present. And I love food, I love music, I love all the things, just love. And I love being part here with y'all and being part of Bling. And there's no better place to be than right here, right now.
Right here, right now. I love what you said. I hate when people try to put me in a box, Greg. It makes me itch. Okay. And I just bust that box out. I tear it up. And are you that type of person?
I mean, I can remember back in 1990 we had to fill out the US Census form, and my dad asking me is like, do you want to check Asian or do you want to check white? And it was almost like, which parent do you love more?
Right.
And I think it was at that moment, right? I was like, I don't want to be in any box.
No.
And I was like, what? I must have been 14, about 14 years old or so. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no boxes, please.
No boxes for me. No boxes for me. We're going to talk about that later, because this is a box type of world. And when you're not a box type of person, there are certain narratives that are created. Yes. We're going to talk about that, Greg. Listen, Bling Crew, everybody already see that Nicole has a part of me. Brooke, you have a part of me. Greg, you have a part of me. Let's bring on Leotis Sander. That's a good name, Leotis.
That is a very old-timey name.
That's old school African American name. Leotis. They went back in generations to pull that out, didn't they?
It's country. You know when you hear that, like, oh, this person got roots in the country. It's one of them type of names, but I own it.
But I don't hear many Leotises.
You don't hear many at all. I'll tell you, if you Google, I'm probably going to be that first one. I'm easy to find.
Listen.
Easy to find.
Kiki Palmer named her baby Leotis. So it's you and Kiki Palmer's son.
Well, there you go. See, that baby going to turn out all right. I'll tell you what.
All right. Leotis.
What's up?
Welcome. This is your second time. I think I've interviewed you before.
I think we have interviewed before. Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Yeah, it was on my other podcast. But
Yes.
Leotis, welcome to the Real Talk with Tanya White show.
Thank you.
Tell our audience who you are.
Who I am.
Where you
I was
calling
thinking-
from first?
As I was looking at this, I was looking for myself, like, who am I? I am a seeker and conduit for higher wisdom being expressed out in the world.
Ooh.
And my commitment is to fight for the rights, freedom, and dignity of marginalized and vulnerable people everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That is who I am.
It
And
made me go back to my college degrees trying to write this down. Say it again. Who you a seeker and conduit of what?
higher wisdom.
Higher wisdom. I love that.
And yes, the rights, freedom, and dignity of marginalized and vulnerable people everywhere is my commitment in this world. That is where my heart is. That is where my hands are in terms of labor. What I do for work is I am the senior director for human resources, inclusion, and belonging for the League of Women Voters.
Okay.
The national office. And I am also a business owner. I own my own consulting firm, Work as One, LLC, which really stands for whoever we are, whatever we do, that we come together as one people, as one spirit, and we get it done.
Get it done. Get her done.
Yeah.
Leotis, what part of the world are you calling from?
I am calling from beautiful Hyattsville, Maryland, just outside of DC.
Outside of DC. I will be in DC in July for what? Delta Sigma Theta National Convention. We got work to do in DC. My Sora, Jasmine Crockett. We probably have a march on Washington with the Deltas because too much is going on with this administration. I'm gonna leave that for another. I'm gonna leave that for another show.
Okay.
We're here to talk about the BLING Crew and friends, forward moving friends. Now we have all the BLING Crew on now at once. Now I want to talk about how you all met. Let's start there. How did you meet? When? Where? And this is real talk. Now, I can assign somebody to talk first, or y'all can just come on and jump. I'd just rather come on in and jump in.
We met through an organization called Landmark Worldwide Education, which is a self-empowerment educational group. And we were doing a program called the Team Management and Leadership Program, TMLP. And that is the place where we met.
When was that?
Ooh. 2014, I want to say.
Okay.
13.
Yeah, 13 into 14.
13.
It was a long program.
Okay.
A year
Last
program. It's a year program.
Yeah.
It's actually 2 years. We only got to do it together for 1 year, but it's a 2-year program.
Now I hear a lot about Landmark through Nicole. What is Landmark? And because when you tell us what it is, we can kind of see what drew you there, because you already told us who you are. But what is Landmark? What was the purpose of that?
So I would say that the work that they do, and they would probably have a different opinion, just so you know, but the work they do is really about transformation. And the context of the whole organization is that life is a conversation. And the way in which they engage in their work is having people understand that conversations that shape the way that they see and experience the world. And then through the work, actually get to the ability to create new possibilities inside of new ways of viewing and experiencing the world that are expressed through language. So it's about really shifting the conversations that you're in and creating new conversations to live into that give you power. That's what I would say is the soul of what they do.
And that's exactly what Miss Coop, I call her Coop, because we across each other, our offices across each other. So you say Coop. And she's always talking about Landmark. And she is teaching a phenomenal class. This is her second time. Students love her. And she's always talking about conversation, being in communication, not only with other people, but with yourself. Coop,
Yes.
Now I can see why, Leotis, thank you for the explanation. I can see why you all were drawn to that transformation, basically through conversation and changing the language that you use. Cooper,
Yeah.
you are a communicator, excellent communicator. Why is it so important first to be in conversation with yourself, and then how do you translate that to conversation with others?
That's such a great question. Well, first starting with self, I mean, doesn't everything start with self? Like that's
Everything.
the basis. And how you move through life, you basically you have to add yourself to the list. That's what I always say, add yourself to the list if there's a list to be done, to be completed. And when we look at ourselves, we are the source first, to then when we have conversations, how we go out in the world, right? And when we're having these conversations, like we've looked at it from our view, our lens. Now we're going out there to see how does it compute? How do you see from that end over there? And it's not a right or wrong, right? This is a conversation of discovery. I don't know. So I'm curious to ask these questions, but I think the first question is to ask yourself what you're asking of others. So
ask yourself what you're asking of others. Put a pin in that, Coop. Greg, bridge builder.
Yes.
Let's expound on that, because bridge builders, you know, you have to be innovative, right? When you're a bridge builder, it's that connection once again. And so, Coop said you have to ask yourself first of what you're asking of others. As a bridge builder, community historian, you wear many hats. What are some of the obstacles of what Coop just said? You have to first ask yourself. Why don't people ask themselves and be who they are, what they're requiring of others?
That's a great
I know,
question.
Greg. That's why I came to you, Greg, because I know you was gonna
right.
give me a deep answer, honey.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking in this, you know, that one of the big pieces, like in the work at Landmark and another place that we've done, some of us have been, actually, I think we've all done at least one course at another place called Momentum Education. Similar idea. There's a lot of looking at blind spots. And, you know, when we can see the blind spots in ourselves, that opens up a whole world, you know, in our hearts, but also in ways to connect with other people, and seeing, like, having some compassion for ourselves and forgiveness for ourselves, and seeing like, oh, I've been doing this thing for a while. I didn't even know I was doing it. There, you can see that, right? Like we're all doing it. There's none of us is not doing that, right? Like this is how we survive the world. And you know, because the world, for the most part, right, is a scary place to survive. That's like the default. And once we uncover, I'll say for myself, like seeing some of these blind spots. Oh, I've been seeing, like, you know, for instance, for a long time living my life through kind of a bit of like a martyr lens, right? And I didn't necessarily know that, but it was like, oh yeah, you know, there's and some of that is like trying to be like superhuman in certain ways. But then, you know, like when I go down, in a blaze of glory and make other people look bad along the way. That's not comfortable for me to like own it, but at the same time, there's so much power in that. And it allows me to practice something different and bring compassion in all my conversations. This is Leotis loves to say this, bringing compassion into like all your conversations and relationships. And this is the other thing that we do here, how we support each other, because we're all in this together. Right? None of us could do any of this work on our own.
Right.
I need Leotis and Nicole and Brooke to like help me see these things in myself, and then offer, right? Like they'll listen for it. They have a powerful listening, and that's what we offer to each other. So then I can show up in the world with other people that are not here in Bling in that kind of powerful way, right? And so then I get to do the work that I'm doing out in the neighborhoods, writing a book also, right? Telling these stories, teaching in the classroom, working in my church, like all of that work in the community shows up in a whole other, I get to show up fully as me, put it that way.
Fully as you.
Yeah.
fully as you, looking at the blind spots,
Yeah.
being aware of your own blind spots, because sometimes, Greg, the world looks at other people's blind spots and say, you need to change this.
That's right. Poking holes in other people
Listen.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that blind spot, that self-awareness, it is people say it's a hard nut to crack, or it's hard, but it really isn't. If when you are a self-aware person, and I'm getting ready to come to you, Brooke, because you said you've got to show up who you are, and sometimes who you are, you have to acknowledge those blind spots. You have to acknowledge that. I love what you said, Greg. Living through a martyr's lens, you got to acknowledge some of those shortcomings. And if you are a self-reflective person, so you can show up fully in the world and bless the world in what you know you're supposed to do, you got to change those. Don't you, Brooke?
Yeah, I mean, yes. One of the blessings of Bling, and it's compounded, it's the work we've all done. So we're kind of all starting from this, we all speak the same language of transformation. And then it's knowing each other for so long and being able to see, because when you say like we have to see our blind spots, yes, but the blind spot is a blind spot because I can't see it.
Right.
I can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with each person on this call, on this podcast, where they've said, oh, Brooke, I hear this. And sometimes, by the way, it's not always easy to hear the blind spot. Like, it can be recognizable, and also I can be really resistant to it because often, and this is the piece, it's nasty. It's not like, oh, your blind spot is you're so nice. You're too nice. You're a people pleaser. No. But what's under that? Maybe it's, I want to look good. Maybe it's, I screw everybody else. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. But I'm covering that in like, oh, I'm covering that in nice, maybe. Like there's a world of.
It's nice, nasty sometimes.
Exactly. And I can count on Bling to tell me that. And to tell me, in fact, I just to say a quick story of something that happened last week. I left a message. I don't remember exactly the words or whatever it was, but it was however I was feeling that moment. And Leotis, and this is the other thing, by the way, it matters how you tell somebody something, right? Like, you can't just point out a blind spot and be like, you're doing this. That's wrong or that's bad, because nobody likes to hear that. And instantly, anybody in the world, the most transformed person in the world, when you tell them they're doing something wrong without context, like the defenses come up. And at least for me, I cannot hear anything else. All I hear is you're doing it wrong. And I'm immediately like, wow, well, but I, right? So I want to put that in because we've really practiced as a group, and it's taken many years actually for us to be able to share what we hear in a way that can land for the other person because we're giving full context and acknowledgement.
And
right?
acknowledgement.
Which is huge. So to say that I said whatever message I left, and Leotis was like, that is so beautiful and 100% inauthentic. Maybe he said 99% inauthentic. But I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it's perfect because in our group, inside of our agreements with each other, which is another key thing, is we do have agreements with each other. I got really triggered. But then when I listened to the message, it was so beautiful. It was so full of love and acknowledgement and getting to what the source core of what we're calling inauthenticity, also blind spot, was, that I could hear it fully and take that on. Which is an ongoing conversation, by the way, because just to also say, it's not like we look at a blind spot. Let me use me. It's not like I look at a blind spot and say, oh, now I have this. I know what it is. All done. I'm better. Fixed or whatever. Like the good news, bad news, as Leotis often says, is like, this is ongoing for the rest of my life, because this is this is just part of my human mechanics. And it's the ongoing opportunity to look at what it is and make a choice every time it comes up. And sometimes I don't see it. And sometimes I do. And sometimes I make a new choice. And sometimes I don't. And it's being human. And that's also being able to have compassion for myself and each other, because we're all human in this moving forward transformation together.
I love it. If you just tuned into Real Talk with Tanya White show, we have the BLING Crew on. Nicole Cooper, Brooke Ferris, Leotis Sanders, Greg Jost, and we're talking about forward moving friends. And if you're just tuning in, we've been having some wonderful conversations for about 30 minutes. But what I hear, BLING Crew, as I listen to you all about how you all hold each other accountable and you all are moving each other forward. And 10 years is not a long time, but it's a long time because people do not commit to relationships, any type of relationships in that manner anymore. But I hear you all talk the same language, okay? The language is transformation and communication, all right? You all have the same goal of loving each other as you're moving forward. You're listening to one another, even what people are not saying. And then you're letting each other process, especially through those blind spots. And so when you talk the same language, you have the at the core of everything is love, and you all practice listening. Active listening is very important. And then you let people process. That is how people move forward. Trust is built. People can see their blind spots and evolve into a better version of themselves. And Leotis, I'm going to come to you because we got to talk about why people don't want to evolve into a better version of themselves. Come on, Leotis, give us that country wisdom.
Well, it's an interesting thought. You know, one of the places where we stand that allows us to interact with each other the way we do is recognizing that everybody actually is whole, complete, and perfect exactly as they are and exactly as they aren't. So one of the things that we've come to appreciate about transformation work is that it's not about getting better, right? The sort of incremental grind of how do I improve? How do I improve? How do I improve? Which has us go to work on ourselves as if we are an incomplete product, as if somehow the work of us is unfinished. Like we were born missing things. We weren't born missing anything. We are whole, complete, and perfect however we are. And there's an opportunity there for us to step into that. We say we want more out of ourselves. We want more love. We want more closeness. We want more freedom, more self-expression, more power. And so then we can create something and step into it for ourselves. We can create our own course. Why people don't want to do that? A lot of folks are unaware that it even is existing and available for them. They think that what they have is all there is. You can see this scarcity mentality all across the world, right? Gregory, in a lot of his work, talks about scarcity, right? It's one of the ways in which we can understand where people are at. There's this sense of there's not enough. There's not enough love. There's not enough money. There's not enough care. There's not enough compassion. There's not enough freedom, right? So I've got to hoard it all, right? You can hear from high offices, we've got to be the most powerful. We've got to have all the freedom. We've got to have all the resources, right? And so there's this sense of there's not enough, which keeps people in this perpetual state of I've got to hoard it all. I can't give generously even to myself.
Yes.
Right. And whether it's in intimate relationships where people are like, I need to have all the power and control so this person doesn't leave and my life stays the way it is. Or if we're talking about nations, we see the same pattern of there's not enough for us to share. There's not enough for me to grow. There's no place else to go. All I have is what's going to sustain me. And so if I'm going to have a good life, I need to get it all. And so rather than expand the way that we might, which would have us live these extraordinary lives we can't even dream, people collapse and they try to pull in and take from others. And it's unfortunate, but it's common. It is the human condition we've come to understand and think that is the way the world is, but certainly is not the way the world has to be.
It is certainly not the way the world has to be. Leotis, you got good country wisdom, because you didn't shed some light on this about why don't people want to be better. You didn't talk real talk with Tanya White. Everyone is whole, complete, and perfect as they are. Some great author wrote a book called Yes, I Am Enough, Tanya White, that's available on Amazon.com. That has that says that because God created us in his image. That's the premise for the book. Yes. And so we are complete, we are whole, we are enough, because we hear I call it not enough-isms. You're not intelligent enough, you're not good enough, you're not fast enough, you're not this, you're not pretty enough. But when we settle into our enoughness, and I love the way you said that, we are whole, complete, and perfect. We were born that way. And we show up as we are. But there's an opportunity to step into another version of ourselves and evolve. When you say you want to do this, there's some evolution that has to take place, because you cannot show up in the next phase of your life as the person you are. You have to learn. You have to listen, and you have to ask questions and show up. I could not be on this platform if I did not study. And I did not want to be on this platform when my life coach said, "This is your next step, Tanya, for where you want to grow." I said, "Look, listen, Valerie, I can produce show, I can do, but I do not want to be in front of the mic." And it's having those conversations and having people to be invested in your forward movement that helps you see, okay, you got to prepare for this. This is already who you are. Yes. Now you have to, if you want this, as you told me, this is the next step, and you got to step into it. So people, we are already whole, complete, and perfect. I love that. Whole, complete, and perfect. But there's an opportunity to step into another season, another level of who we are. Yes. And there's no scarcity. Gregory, let's talk about this bridge builder. Because there is, when people say, okay, yes, I want to, let me say, I want to write a book. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a publisher. And look, I get this question every day. Can you help me write a book? And then I start having those deeper diving questions, Gregory, the why questions. All right. And when we get to the why you want to write a book, it usually goes back to, first of all, I want to write a book so I can sell these many books and so I can get financial. Well, first of all, when I break their little heart, let me tell you something. You don't write a book to sell thousands of copies. We're not in that age anymore. Okay. So you're not going to do it. All right. And I'm learning, Brooke, how to say it so they won't get offended. Okay. I am learning. Okay. I'm learning because I am a self-reflective person. But also when you love a craft and you have studied that craft, that person inside of you, Coop calls it that your identity. And you're thinking, what? Look, I'm gonna need you to study on this industry. Why don't you study? See what I'm saying, Greg? Why are you thinking in a scarce mode? How can we get people, Gregory, to first of all realize that we should not be operating and living our lives from a place of scarcity?
That's a great question.
I have great questions, you guys. Look.
Just to bring it back into the world of writing. I love what you asked too. Like, why write a book? As someone who's been working on a book for 10 years, and
that's all right, Greg. Keep working.
Yeah, and it's long. It's getting long, and it's getting close. It's getting close. Exciting. And some people have asked me that along the way, like, why are you writing the book? And some of it could be right. Yeah, like, oh, I want to sell copies. I want the name. Ego is part of identity is right there. And then at some point, like along that journey, I think that I've been able to discover like how much it's just like there are these stories that I love telling, and I get to discover myself in the process of it. And I think as I write I'm writing a book about the Bronx and this historical practice called redlining. And historical meaning it's still ongoing, but it's how racism is in housing and financial sectors of our world and our nation. And and the way that it influences where people live, the opportunities they have, and the way that it divides and keeps people apart. And inside of like the construct of race, which is a manufactured scarcity, it's meant to keep people apart from each other, to have people like create distance between people. And I think seeing the impact of that is part of that journey, at least the way I see it. It's and able to see the ways also that people have built bridges throughout time, throughout history, people who've come before us. We're not alone on this journey. I think that's a big piece of it, to see what are some of the stories of people in our own neighborhoods who have worked together to say like, hey, don't write our neighborhood off just because you don't like the color of some of our, you know, people's skin or this or that, whatever the reasons are. We're worth investing in. We're worth something. Our neighborhood is worth something. And the way that people have done that, I found there's so much joy in telling those stories. In for myself, in going out and talking to people, even if I were never to actually even if no one ever bought the book, which is not happening. But you know,
it's not gonna
people will be buying the book. People will be. I know people are excited about it.
They're gonna hire you to come and be the keynote speaker for a fee.
There you go. That's
four-figure fee to start. And he's going to be keynote speaker. He's going to be workshop facilitator. He's going to be on CNN. Right. So yes, people are going to buy the book. Okay.
And just going out and collecting the stories and then being able to start sharing them with people, like in the classroom. I teach as an adjunct in the sociology and urban studies at Fordham University here in the Bronx, and also at Lincoln Center campus. Yep. And even how I got that position was like, I was sharing here with Bling over the weekend. I was like, yeah, you know, when I went out to try and find it, then the door was kind of closed on me. And then I kept doing what I was doing and following my heart. And then the door was opened later at a different time on God's timing, right? That's what I would say. And, you know, so being able to share those stories with my students, even right now in my everyday, is part of the joy of being in the process of writing a book. And I realized too that this is the only time in my life that I will be a first-time author, because after it's published, then there'll be more. But I get to enjoy the part of my life that is like, ooh, what is it to be a first-time author who doesn't know how to do it, right? Who's just in the process of learning it. It's a beautiful place to be. And that's why I see what's possible in letting go of the scarcity of like needing to be somewhere else that I'm not. And that's what we get here together. Like always, I think one of the joys of being in Bling is being constantly reminded that we are each in the perfect place that we need to be right now. Even if it doesn't feel good.
Woo! Listen, we're going to talk about that on part 2. Our time of Real Talk is coming up to a quick close. It's going to be a part 2. This is part 1 of Real Talk about forward moving friends. Before we go in this part 1, Bling Crew, I want you to share your contact information. And to wrap this up, the takeaways are here is when you have forward moving friends, you got to talk the same language. You got to be from a place of love. You got to listen. You got to let people process. So as you share that, your contact information, share one nugget of advice for people who have a friend group, but they may not be forward moving. Okay. Because we have some friends that you be like, why am I still talking to this person? You know what I'm saying? So let's start with Gregory. Share your contact information, because Real Talk is going to connect with you, especially those who are in decision-making positions to hire you to come talk about redlining.
Yes, thank you. So you can find me on LinkedIn for sure. That's a good way to get me. And also gregory.a.jost@gmail.com is another great way to find me. And yeah. And what I would say, did you want that little piece of advice? I would say just start with like creating an intention around talking regularly. That's in many ways how we started off. Was like, hey, let's have a weekly call. And then stick to it, right? Just that little piece of like being consistent, seeing what gets in the way, and having a regular call. It's a good first step.
Stick to it. Create intention is what I heard you say.
Yes.
To speak to those who you call friends regularly. Leotis Sander, give us her contact information and then one piece of advice to close out this part one.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Also, LinkedIn is good for me, Leotis Sanders. I'm easy to find. Again, not a lot of Leotises in there. But you can also reach out to me at workasone@asonewethrive.com. That is workasone@asonewethrive.com. And in terms of one piece of wisdom, I would say stand for your friend's greatness. You know, a lot of people listen and, you know, they'll focus on being empathetic and being caring and being compassionate. And those things are really important and people need that. But it won't pull them forward. It will have them feel heard. It will have them feel seen, as Nicole always talks about, and that's really valuable. But it doesn't create a future for them. Stand for their greatness, for the future that is for them beyond this moment, and have them get that there is a future. We strive to do that in Bling all the time.
Y'all do it so well. Miss Brooke, contact information.
I'll jump on the LinkedIn bandwagon. Why not? Sure. LinkedIn, Brooke Ferris. You can also find me on Instagram at Songstars, SONGSTARS. And you could also reach out to me through email at songstars@gmail.com. Piece of advice. I would say
Yes, spirits.
inside of moving forward. You know, I'm not going to do a different one. I'm actually going to piggyback on Gregory's because it really is about intention. And I'll say you can also start with letting people know the intention, right? And like getting buy-in. So what I mean by that is, for example, I have another friend who's not part of BLING Crew, but who we realized like we really wanted to create something together because we missed each other and we wanted to connect. We set up a weekly call, and the point of our call is called Wins of the Week. So we go through and we name all the different wins that we've had, which, you know, is really fun because we get to say like what they were, we get to acknowledge each other. But whatever you create, like sometimes having something to live into like that can be a good jumping off point.
Brooke, that was good. Wins of the week. I'm taking it. Cool.
Well, I'm going to jump on that like bandwagon with LinkedIn. Nicole Cooper. You can look for me there. You can also look for me on Instagram, Nicole N. Cooper. Yes, message me. That's how you can find me. And I'm going to say for the beginning, when you were like, what's the key word? I was like, not only I was thinking intention, beautiful, Gregory, Brooke, intention, but also like, what is it that you want? Like, what do you want in your life? What do you desire? Sometimes we don't ask ourselves that question, and we don't ask others that question. And then we don't know what to do with it. We're like, but what do we do? How do we do? Sometimes it's just that conversation and setting aside, okay, this intention for us to get together is eating. We're finding new restaurants, or we are speaking about our children. We're speaking about our government, really what there is that you don't get to say maybe in the world over here that you live in. Like, so I'm saying intention. I'm sticking to my guns. Intention.
It's because y'all talk the same language. You have to have friends to talk the same language.
I also just want to hop in and put in sex because Nicole and I had a very intentional frank conversation about sex. Salon. I'm just, you know, shout out to sex and especially
shout out.
Yes,
we're going to have a girls' conversation, Brooke, Nicole, Tanya. Because look, I saw Greg and the others like, oh my God. Yes.
Well, I just didn't want people to think that the sex is necessary in the friendship part. Not
in the friendship, but in life.
That kind of friends. I just want to make sure that that was clear coming across.
Let me tell you something.
Thank you.
Let me go biblical. God created that.
It was real ambiguous.
Okay, ladies, we're gonna have a real talk for real ladies talk. Okay,
yes.
we just Okay,
That's right. We're going to talk about play.
It's necessary. Oh my God, this was wonderful. Listeners, we'll talk about forward moving friends. This is part 1. What I gathered from here is that when you want friends to move you forward, you have to talk the same language. You have to be from a place of love. You got to listen. You got to let people be who they are and process the way they process. You got to be intentional. You have to meet regularly and stand for your friends' greatness. Okay, we just can't be friends no more, especially after, in your 50s. We got to be moving forward because, 50, you got more years behind you than you got in front of you. So why not move forward into being the person that you were born to be? As Leotis said, we all are whole, complete, and perfect as we are. We just have to seize opportunity to evolve into our better selves, not better selves, but where we want. And we're going to show up as that. Listen, once again, thank you to our sponsors, LaTanya Renee Banks and Derby City Medical Partners. If you're in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, and you need a primary care physician, look up Derby City Medical Partners. Why? Because her name is LaTanya Renee. And it's a good name to stand by from LaTanya Renee White. Okay? But she's LaTanya Renee Banks. Until next time, reshare this, re-listen, take your notes. We're going to come with part 2 next of Real Talk about forward moving friends. Until next time, remember to love your life, live your life, and